All right, guys, so let's jump in to Bootstrap. So I've got my web browser here, which doesn't have a page in it yet. So let me drag this over here. All right, this is our Bootstrap page. I'm going to make that a bit shorter so I can get quick access to my IDE here. And there's a few components to Bootstrap that are essential to Bootstrap. So one of them, and what I mean by essential is you don't have to use them, but they are so flexible and so standard that we do use them. So the first one that we're going to be discussing is the Navbar. So a Navbar is the top part of a website that generally has a logo and then the main navigation. And so again, Bootstrap is just a collection of classes that you're going to use for certain elements, and they interact with each other, and some elements go within other elements, etc., etc. So let's learn Bootstrap. Let's make a main navigation. So I'm going to go ahead and open up a let's say section with the class of, oh wow, okay. Now with Bootstrap classes, usually you're going to use more than one class because they have base classes and then classes that expand on those and so on. So in this case, to make a navbar, we use the class navbar. And now you can either choose a navbar with a light background and dark text or inverted. So let's go ahead and create the default one. So also add the class navbar default. Now if I save it and refresh, we don't have anything yet. Let's go ahead and add the navbar brand. So this is where you will add the image or the text that brands your website. So I'm going to go ahead and add a href, just a hash sign, and then class navbar-brand. And in here, I write my site. Save it and refresh. And now we've got a navbar brand. If I look at the navbar styling, navbar default, there's no border on it. We can add a border manually later. In Bootstrap 3, this did have a bottom border, but I guess it doesn't anymore, so that's all right. Now, in the navbar, we're going to add a main navigation. So to do this, it's a simple UL with li items, but the UL has a class of navbar, nav. And then you're just going to create regular list items with regular links. So let's say about me is going to be one of them. Blog is going to be one of them. And then contact. So I'm going to save this and refresh. And what we have here is it looks like something is not working. Let me change that from section to nav. Navbar default. Let's go ahead and look at Bootstrap. We might, maybe they changed all this. I did not consult the Bootstrap 4 documentation yet. So, components, let's go to navbar. All right. So this is what it should look like. And I guess navbar gets these new classes, navbar light and bg faded, to look like this. Let's go ahead and add these. So instead of navbar default, this is going to be quite a bit different from Bootstrap 3, but I think it's better to cover Bootstrap 4 at this point because that is the future, and by the time new people join this course, that might be the standard by then. So navbar dash toggleable, we're going to say medium, and then navbar dash light, and bg faded. So let's go ahead and save this and refresh, and there. Now we get our navbar, but the navbar list is still a bit screwed up. So navbar nav item and nav link are two new classes that they've also added. So let's say we can remove the nav class. So now the UL has a class of navbar nav, and we're going to add mr-auto. In the li items, we're going to add a class of nav-item, and the a elements are going to get a class of nav-link. So copy and paste this into the other items there. And save it. Now if we go back to our page, now we've got our navbar looking a bit better. So you can do a lot of things with this. You see they've added an input field for search and a button to it. And you can add a lot of things within the navbar. And so we're going to be discussing a little bit more about the navbar, I guess in the next video, because we're also going to go over some utility classes that we're going to implement into it, and we're going to make this a lot bigger.